if you look at the problem from a fiscal perspective, how much are we spending? We're spending a whole lot more to kill people than to imprison them for the rest of their life.
We have to talk about the other fact of effectiveness and costs. You know, how much money is it going to incur to terminate someone's life? They're going to get their attorneys, they're going to have all these appeals, they're going to drag this out. It's going to cost us millions and millions of dollars.
We are seeing here in New Hampshire, we're up to about $5 million. I've heard estimates, but by the time the federal appeals are done, we could be closer to $10 million spent on one case.
The money that's available, if we didn't have to pay for these endless appeals and lengthy prosecutions, would allow them to increase the manpower on the street, increase the level of training.
You could use it for, you know, rehab programs, any sort of social outreach. You could use it, hey, how about you give a cop a raise? How about you give them the equipment training they could use?
I would take that money that someone else might spend on the death penalty, $5 million, and I would make sure that the family that survived had that person's salary plus a grade or two up for the rest of their natural lives. And I would pay for the college education of each of those children in the best college that they could get into. It would cost a lot less than $5 million.
We ought to support them as much as we can financially and emotionally, and try and make their families as whole as possible. That's what we owe those police officers. And it means more than, hey, you got a conviction for someone, we're going to put someone to death for you.
This happened 12 years ago now. And it seems like whenever you start to get some sort of, I'll never use the words like get over it when people say it, because you don't. You know, it's, your life changes and you do what you can to get along. But when you do start to get any sort of healing or a sense of, okay, things are getting better, there's a new hearing, there's a new, the issue's in the paper again. It just keeps coming back and back and back. Whereas if back in 08 at the trial, this had just been life without possibility of parole, Aston would be put away and forgotten. I'm not saying you'd be completely healed like people involved in this would be, no. But there'd be some sense of, maybe I can start to patch things back together, or at least be left alone and not be thrown as in, tell me about this, what do you think about that? This issue just keeps coming back and back and back. And what that does, I can't imagine what it does to some families, but what it does to mine, I know, and it's not a good thing.
In a prior effort at the legislature, there was a very powerful testimony by a warden from Florida. And he said that when he first took over the job as a warden, he fully knew that he was going to be having to preside over and take part in executions. After several of those executions had occurred, he had trouble sleeping, he had trouble with substance abuse, and the most powerful thing was, he said, every night when he went to bed, there was a bunch of the men who were executed sitting in chairs next to his bed. I mean, it's a very potent psychological impact that invaded so many aspects of his life.
I wasn't the only one affected by these executions. In both Florida and Texas, I saw staff traumatized by the duties they were asked to perform. Officers who had never even met the inmate fought tears and cowered in corners so they wouldn't be seen and wouldn't be taken as a weakness. Many of my colleagues turned to drugs and alcohol to numb the pain of knowing that a man had died at their hands.
People in the employ of the department whose primary jobs are safety and security and programming and health care and all of that, will all of a sudden have to be involved one way or another in the execution of someone inside the facility. And I think it's going to have dramatic and very troubling effects.